بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته أما بعد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا بني آدم خذوا زينتكم عند كل مسجد وكلوا واشربوا ولا تسرفوا إنه لا يحب المسرفين O children of Adam, put on your adornment on every occasion of prayer and eat and drink, but do not waste. Indeed, he does not like the wasteful. Brothers and sisters, scholars and elders, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and I thank you once again for inviting me to your homes in these nights of the holy month of Ramadan. In this ayah, which is ayah number 31 of Surah Al-A'raf, in today's juz number 8, we have a look at 5 different items, 4 of which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered us to do, and 1 of which He has forbidden us from. The 4 items relate to beauty, to children, to food and drink, and to our wealth. And the item He has forbidden us from is extravagance or wastefulness, israf. But before we start today's session, a jurisprudential issue. Some of us might need to travel or, God forbid, might fall ill during the holy month of Ramadan, and we are unable, as a result, to fast during particular days in the holy month of Ramadan. So we're obligated then to make up for those days. Now, some of us might forget how many days we've traveled or how many days we fell ill. What is our obligation in that instance? The scholars agree that in this instance, what someone should do is that they should look at the number of days they are certain about having missed their fasts. So for example, let's assume I traveled somewhere between 5 and 7 days. In this instance, I would look at the 5 days and repeat those fasts and ignore anything beyond that. Those days which are in doubt, we don't need to repeat their fasts for. Another example, for example, someone has fallen ill for 3 or 4 days. He's not sure whether it's 3 or 4 days. In this case, he would only need to fast for 3 days. They only need to fast the days in which they are certain they have missed. Now, as a side issue, if someone intentionally breaks a fast, in addition to the need to redo the fast or do the qada fast, they also need to pay the kafara. And interestingly, the kafara is payable by the person themselves. So for example, the wife would need to pay for her own kafara. The husband does not need to pay for his wife's kafara, even though the husband is responsible for all expenses the wife requires. For example, her living expenses and her shelter and the food and everything like that, according to her own status. The husband is responsible for those. However, in the case of the kafara, every person is responsible for their own in regards to this particular kafara that we're talking about, the kafara of the fast. Now, if she is not working, she's looking after the house, she's looking after the children, she's raising a family, she has no source of income, in that case, the obligation to pay the kafara drops. Now, back to the ayah of the Holy Quran, ayah number 31 of Surah Al-A'raf. As I said, this ayah is talking about 5 different things: beauty, children, wealth, food and drink, and finally, the issue of israf. Now, from the outset, we can see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that Islam pays special attention to appearance, to looking presentable, to cleanliness and to hygiene, to health and well-being. We have many narrations in terms of washing the hands, ablution, performing the ghusl. Some are recommended, some are wajib. We have ghusl for at least once a week, the Friday ghusl, which is very mustahab and very recommended. We have wajib ghusl that need to be done For example, ghusl al-janaba or certain ghusls for women. We have recommended ghusl for example, for ziyarat even. Ablution, even if you have ablution already, the recommendation is to repeat your ablution because there's many rewards that follow from there. So you can see that cleanliness is important in Islam. Likewise, with regards to eating and health, that also has a significant role in Islam. For example, if you have a look at the Risala of Sayyid Sistani, under the etiquettes of eating and the manners of eating, you'll see that washing of the hands before and after food is included in there, having small morsels of food, staying a prolonged period of time over the food when you're eating, so not rushing when you're eating. You should chew the food thoroughly. And you should lie on your back after finishing the food and put your right leg over your left leg so that the stomach is allowed to process its food, apparently in a better fashion. So, washing of the hands as an example, if we take that as an example, there are many narrations with regards to that. And the reasons behind washing the hands and what consequences arise from it. For example, it prevents poverty, it increases sustenance, it improves eyesight, it prevents grief and anxiety, it prolongs life, and it distances shaitan from the person. And all of these are according to the narrations of Ahlul Bayt. So for example, one narration is غسل اليدين قبل الطعام وبعده زيادة في الرزق. So washing the hands before and after food is actually an increase in your sustenance. So, having said the importance and stated the importance of hygiene and health in Islam, let's come back to this ayah. Ya Bani Adam. Here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to mankind as a whole. You see, if he was talking specifically to Muslims, he would say, for example, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. When he wants to talk to the general population, to general mankind, he would say, Ya ayyuhan nas, or in this case, Ya bani Adam. So it appears that this involves all religions and all of mankind. He says, خُذُوا زِينَتَكُمْ. So take your zina. Here, zina is what? It includes a number of things. Zinatakum, usually here it translates to clothes. So you would wash yourself, get ablution, or have performed your ghusl, and put on your clean clothes, your good clothes, in order to go to places of worship, in order to go to your prayers. خُذُوا زِينَتَكُمْ. Now, there's other interpretations of this zina also. For example, in the ayah where it says, الْمَالُ وَالْبَنُونَ زِينَةُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. This ayah is saying that al-mal, which is your wealth, wal-banun, which is who are your children, these two are your zinatul hayat dunya. These two are your adornment of your worldly life, the decoration of your worldly life. So when we go to the masjid, it's telling us that we should take the best of our clothes. In fact, in the narrations, we have a number of narrations that emphasize the importance of having clean clothes, perfuming your body, combing your hair, closing the buttons on your shirt, for example. All of these are in the narrations for when we go to pray. And this ayah confirms that with خُذُوا زِينَتَكُمْ عِنْدَ كُلِّ مَسْجِدٍ. Every time you go to a prayer or to a place of worship. Now finally, with regards to zina, and one of the examples of the zina being al-mal, or your wealth, in one of the tafsirs, Tafsir al-Nur, it says that perhaps one of the reasons why we want to take our wealth to the masajid or to the Husayniyat is that we are able to help others resolve their problems, their financial and economic problems. So we should go to these places of worship with money in hand in anticipation of someone asking us for some help, or if we see someone who is in need of some help, so that we can be ready in order to assist them. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, he was asked with regards to why he wears such beautiful clothes when he goes to prayer. And he says, Inna Allah jameel yahibbul jamal. Certainly Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. فَأَتَجَمَّلْ. So I beautify myself لِرَبِّي, to my Lord. Now the next part of the ayah. So far we've done يا بني آدم خذوا زينتكم عند كل مسجد. And then it says وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا, and eat and drink. Of course, what kind of food should we eat? It should be halal food for a start. In Surah Al-Baqarah, we read يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ كُلُوا مِمَّا فِي الْأَرْضِ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا. O people, and here again, he's talking to the general population, not necessarily only to Muslims. O people, eat from that which is on earth that is halal and tayyib. So he's advising everyone, not just Muslims, to eat halal food and tayyib food. And we'll get to tayyib in a minute. Shortly after, in the same surah, Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the believers. In this ayah he says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُلُوا مِن طَيِّبَاتِ مَا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ وَاشْكُرُوا لِلَّهِ إِن كُنتُمْ إِيَّاهُ تَعْبُدُونَ. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, oh, you who believe, eat from the tayyibat of your sustenance. Now, He doesn't mention here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the foregone conclusion of halal food. You see, there's no need to mention that. As Muslims, we only eat halal food. He goes straight to the issue of tayyibat. You see, halal is a large circle, and tayyibat is a circle within that larger circle. So in this instance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking to the mu'mineen, and He's saying, eat the tayyibat. And these tayyibat are what the prophets used to eat, alayhimus salam, and Ahlul Bayt, alayhimus salam. Okay. وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. Here we get to the issue of israf. Israf has a number of meanings. One of those meanings is to put something where it doesn't belong. Another is to exceed the limit, or to exceed the level of moderation. It's to eat beyond one's fill. So this usually happens in the holy month of Ramadan, as an example, where all day we are hungry and thirsty, and we smell the food being cooked, and then we sit down to eat, and mashallah, we eat and eat and eat and continue to eat beyond our limits. That is israf. So we need to be aware of this issue of israf, because it can move something from something that is halal to something that is haram. It can move something from being beneficial, such as food and water, to something that's harmful. So for example, when you eat, and you need to eat in order to be able to worship, that's beneficial and it's halal, it's mubah. But when you overeat, then you're moving that from the box of halal closer to towards the box of haram. So we need to be aware of this israf issue. إنه لا يحب المسرفين. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Certainly, the Prophet in one of the narrations is said to have said, certainly israf is to eat everything that one desires. Everything that you desire and you can put your hand on, you would eat. That is israf. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam in Al-Kafi has been narrated to have said that israf is not what is beneficial for the body. So if something is beneficial, it is then considered not to be israf. Israf is corruption and the wasting of resources. It is also the use of something that is harmful to the body. That is israf. So you might have something cheap but harmful, or you might have something expensive but beneficial. In this case, buying the expensive item is not israf, whereas buying something that might harm you, no matter how cheap it is, that is considered to be israf. Now, if we combine the two items, the two sections of this ayah, Ya Bani Adam, and here we can actually get the benefit of this ayah, insha'Allah. Ya Bani Adam, خذوا زينتكم عند كل مسجد وكلوا واشربوا ولا تسرفوا. So this ولا تسرفوا appears to apply to everything prior to what was just said. Beauty, children, wealth, food and drink. With all these items, ولا تسرفوا إنه لا يحب المسرفين. Here we get the message from the ayah. With regards to beauty, you see, everything has a time and place. With regards to beauty, for example, if a brother goes to dinner wearing his best sporting equipment, so that wouldn't make sense. He's wearing the best clothes, but he's not wearing them in the appropriate setting. Or if he was to go, for example, to play soccer or football, wearing his best dinner suit, again, that's not appropriate. Sure, you look handsome and beautiful, but you're not wearing the right clothes for the right scenario. And likewise for women, their beautification, different scenarios, different times, different places require different forms of beautification. Women looking beautiful inside the house is different to women looking beautiful outside the house. There are rules. There are jurisprudential rules, there are akhlaqi rules with regards to what level of beauty we're talking about. How beautiful? What do you use to beautify yourself when you go to the masjid? Beautifying yourself when you go to the masjid is not the same as beautifying yourself, for example, for your husband. So, as we can see in both scenarios, for both men and women, their attire, their clothes, their beautification has a time and place. A woman, for example, if she is to pray inside a room that is locked and no one is allowed to enter, she still requires to wear the hijab. There's no one there. Why would she need to wear hijab for? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything. He knows what she looks like. He knows what her hair looks like and her beauty looks like. There's no need for hijab. But you see, the occasion calls for the hijab in respect of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you go to a king, you would wear the best clothes, and Allah is the king of all kings. He is the Rabbul Alameen. Now, I forgot to mention actually one thing that's very important with regards to the ayah that was mentioned earlier. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kulu min tayyibati ma razaqnakum, O you who believe, eat from the sustenance that we have given you, the tayyibat of the sustenance. Washkuru lillah. Here, washkuru lillah, if you go back to Surah Al-Hamd that we covered in the first session, where we talked about Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, look, there's a parallel here between Alhamdulillah, washkuru lillah. And then the ayah goes on, In kuntum iyyahu ta'budun, if you are truly worshipping Him and Him alone. And in Surah Al-Hamd, again, there's that parallel. Iyyaka na'budu, you alone we worship. Okay, now we've covered beauty and the requirements of beauty depending on where you are and where you go. And the time is also very important. The time in which we are living in. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was asked once, how come you wear beautiful clothes when your grandfather, Imam Ali alayhi salam, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he never wore clothes like this. He was always, wearing very simple clothes, and he would only have 1 or 2 garments to wear. Why are you wearing such beautiful clothes? And Imam Sadiq says, because there are different times. At the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam, the Muslims were living during hardships. In our time now, alhamdulillah, Muslims are in a better condition. So there's this common denominator. Imam Ali alayhi salam needed to wear what the poorest would wear at that time. And Imam Sadiq alayhi salam likewise. The common denominator, because the wealth status of the Muslim was better, he was able to wear better clothing. So that applies to us as well. When we go to a suburb or a family that's not doing very well, for example, we're helping them out with something, don't go with your best of the best of clothes there. In that instance, you would go with something a little bit more moderate. But if you're going to a masjid, for example, where all of them are doctors and engineers, alhamdulillah, and they're all doing well, then everybody should be wearing beautiful clothes, combing their hair, perfuming their body. So, the message from this ayah 31 of Surah Al-A'raf, are 5. Firstly, you should approach your places of worship, whether they be at home or masjid, wearing the best of your clothes, having perfumed your body, combed your hair, and all in all, in a presentable sense. The second message is to take your children. Take your children to places of worship, to places of supplication, so that they can be exposed to this environment. When we're living in places like Australia and there aren't masajid in every second street and there isn't the call of the adhan in the air, we don't get reminded as often as we should with regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with regards to inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, with regards to iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, with regards to maliki yawmiddin. We don't get reminded as often. So when you have Dua Kumail every Thursday, inshaAllah, Dua Tawassul on Tuesdays, when you pray, even when you're praying at home, gather the children around. The best times to bond with your children sometimes are between the prayers, between Dhuhr and Asr, for example, or between Maghrib and Isha, where you can discuss things and negotiate things and talk about stories and morals and akhlaq. These are very important times for people to bond. The third item is that Islam in itself looks at worship from 2 points of view. One from the outer point of view, the appearance, as we discussed. And as we know, the other side is the inner feelings or ihsas or hudur al-qalb, the presence of the heart, for example, when you're praying. In Surah Al-Mu'minun, it says, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Those who are in their prayers, they have khushu'. So Islam looks at both spiritual and physical parts of worship, the inner and the outer. The fourth item is, according to this ayah, and if we were to take the order of the ayah as having of some significance, then we see that first the prayers are mentioned and then the food. So if we were to break our fast, perhaps it would be better to pray first and then break our fast. But of course, if people and your family are waiting to eat with you, then you shouldn't be the cause of that delay. You should eat with them and then go pray in congregation after the feast. The fifth item is, don't be extravagant. Do not be wasteful. وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. And here, in all areas, as we've discussed, in terms of beauty, children, wealth, food and drink, what kind of food. So in terms of food, there's quantity and quality as well. So in these items, in any item really, israf is forbidden. وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. And we end with a supplication as we do every other night. اللهم رب شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن. O the Lord of the month of Ramadan, in which you sent in it the Holy Quran. وَافْتَرَضْتَ عَلَى عِبَادِكَ فِيهِ الصِّيَامِ, and obliged upon your worshippers fasting. صَلِّ عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَآلِ مُحَمَّدٍ. وَارْزُقْنِي حَجَّ بَيْتَكَ الْحَرَامِ فِي عَامِي هَذَا وَفِي كُلِّ عَامٍ. And grant me the pilgrimage of your sacred house in this year and in every year. وَاغْفِرْ لِي تِلْكَ الذُّنُوبِ الْعَظَامِ, and forgive me those great sins of mine. فَإِنَّهُ لَا يَغْفِرُهَا غَيْرُكَ يَا رَحْمَنُ يَا عَلَّامُ. For there is no forgiveness of them except from you, O merciful, O ever knowing. Thank you very much for joining us. Inshallah, tomorrow we will have another session with you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.